Dubai Eye 103.8.
And Dubai taking a couple of the top spots and near top spots in yet another property list. This time, the list is from Savills, and it's looking at things like capital value growth in the prime market. Very pleased to be joined by Swapnil Pillai, who is the Associate Director of Research and Advisory at Savills this morning. Swapnil, it's lovely to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Nice to be back in the studio again, Brandy. Thank you very much.
Before we get started, what are you guys at Savills counting as prime property? Where do you draw the borders?
Yeah, so for the purpose of this report, we are looking at properties that are priced about 3,000 dirhams a square foot as prime residential properties. But it also includes a lot of these larger villas, which are 10 million dirhams and above in terms of their pricing.
Right. So we're looking at how those properties are moving. And Dubai and Miami have seen the highest level of capital growth in 2022. What exactly have we seen?
Yeah, so for this report, this is our flagship annual publication wherein we look at capital value trends across 30 global cities. And Dubai is one of them. And last time when we looked at this report, Dubai was among the top 3 cities in terms of capital value increases. And this time around, we are among the top 2 cities. Growing by around 12.4% in terms of capital value increases compared to Miami, which has grown by around 25% on an annual basis.
Yeah, I was interested in the fact that, like you say, we came in number 2 and we've seen half the rate of growth of Miami. That's quite a big difference.
Yeah, but we have seen substantial increases in the property prices last year. So I think on the back of that, if you look at, I spoke to Richard 3 years ago in 2020, and at that point in time the per square foot property prices were around $530, and this time around it is $730. So we have seen a 30% increase on average across the prime residential sector. So we have seen that substantial increase in pricing over the last 2 years.
Right, and we are double what Singapore is again, coming in at number 3. Again, there's quite a big jump between your top 3.
Yeah, so we are seeing a lot more demand, specifically in cities like Dubai, which are seeing a lot more supply coming into that prime residential segment, and that is why we have outperformed a lot of these other global cities in terms of the capital values as well as the rental market.
Yeah, and we'll get into the rental in a second, but you guys have pointed to lack of stock as one of the things that has been pushing up these numbers, the capital growth. When do you expect that to ease? How long can that last?
So we still have a substantial amount of development pipeline across the prime residential sector. Just to give you an example, this time in 2022, we have seen a 150% increase in the total number of transactions for property priced above 4,000 dirhams a foot and above, which is quite significant when you look at other global markets. That kind of highlights that there is still a lot of appetite for prime residential properties, and there is still a lot of supply that is being introduced into the market to kind of cater to this demand. So we might see this increase from a longer term perspective.
We've seen quite a lot of villa developments being launched in this segment, though, recently by developers. I feel like every second day I get an email inviting me to, look at buying a villa in what curiously have been a lot of farm and valley themed developments. When is the glut going to start?
I think in some of the markets we're already starting to see that. Say, for example, Palm Jumeirah, most of the developments have been built out. There is limited land parcels available there. So we are seeing prices increase dramatically across Palm Jumeirah, but we are seeing some of these newer developments coming across Al Qudra corridor, coming across Maidan and the downtown, not the downtown area, but that D3, the D3 area. So we are seeing a lot of supply coming into those areas, but some of the built up areas like Palm Jumeirah, your Springs Meadows, your Emirates Hills are seeing that price increases.
Okay, well, if we look at rents, you've had rents outperforming capital value growth here in this report. Talk me through that equation.
Yeah, so the increase in lending rates across the world are kind of differing a lot of these high value investors also to look at buying property. So they're preferring to rent right now. And the fact that a lot of the primary transactions or the first transactions across the prime segment has happened in 2022 indicates that a lot of these people are preferring to buy off land right now and waiting for the next 2 or 3 years for these developments to be handed over. And some of these newer developments are much better in terms of the specs that they offer, in terms of the qualities, in terms of how exclusive they are. So a lot of these people are preferring to wait and buy in something that will be handed over in the next 2 or 3 years.
And does that mean that in 2 or 3 years we will see rents in the prime sector drop as people move into their own homes?
No, so I think we are seeing a steady increase in population as well. So if you look at Dubai, the population is around 3.5 million residents as of now. So we still have a substantial headroom for the population to grow as well. There are reports by other consultancy firms that indicate that the UAE in general will see a lot more HNI migration. Oxford Economics, for example, predicts that there will be 50,000 households, in the $250,000 bracket in the next 7 years. So we'll see a lot more HNIs moving into the city, which should drive capital values as well as rental values going forward.
Well, you might have partly answered one of the questions I had looking at your report, which is that you are predicting that a lot of the prime markets are going to slow down, possibly substantially this year. But Dubai and Singapore are two that you point at as potentially bucking this trend. Why us?
Yeah, so in 2021, we saw an average 6.1% increase in capital values globally. 2022, this was 3.2%. And going forward, we're expecting an average increase of only 0.5% globally. But like I said, Dubai continues to be among the only few cities which is going to see that 6 to 8% increase on an average across the prime residential market. This is purely because of the fact that the economy here is doing really well. We are seeing a lot of people moving in here because of the high quality of living that the city has to offer, the relatively affordable per square foot value for prime residential properties in Dubai, and then also the cost of ownership of a $2 million plus property, which is around 7% in Dubai compared to a Singapore, which is 35%, or in New York, which is around 18%.
What do you mean by cost of ownership? The cost of buying or more than that?
So cost of buying, cost of maintaining the property, and also the cost of selling. So the overall, it includes things like a stamp duty, it includes things like a property tax, etc.
And that actually is one of the things that we have puzzled here on the Business Breakfast. So square this for me. We're seeing all this growth. We're seeing all these price records being set. Your report is in no way unique. It feels like every third day we're saying that Dubai has topped some list for property prices or growth in property prices. And yet people are also saying, oh, but it's actually really cheap comparatively.
Yeah, so like I said, on a per square foot basis, we are around $730 US dollars per square foot, which is the fourth most affordable market globally. And if you compare it to Singapore, for example, which is around $1,800, and Hong Kong, for example, which is $4,000. So from that perspective, Dubai still appeals to a lot of people because it is, at the end of the day, a wealth preservation sort of an asset, the prime residential market. And a lot of people see that there is still headroom for the prime residential segment to grow going forward.
So will it? What's your gut sense on this? What's your Scooby sense? Are we going to continue to remain a bargain, or are we at a tipping point where our prices start levelling up with the rest of the world?
So across the prime residential sector, I think if you look at some of these locations where these projects are coming up, most of the land parcels are kind of dried out. There could be limited inventory coming up across some of these locations. So I think the prices should hold steady. And the fact that we are seeing a lot more wealthy individuals move to this city, I think that should kind of help the price stability as well as a bit of a growth going forward.
Swapnil Pillai is Associate Director of Research and Advisory for Savills, in discussing a new report suggesting that Dubai is topping, or at least coming near the top, of yet another list of property records. This one is for capital value growth.
Keep your